So there's a mic placement, stereo mic placement technique for drums that I don't think I ever really gave a fair shake to, which is the Glyn Johns mic technique. Maybe you guys have heard of it. It's so good. It's so unbelievably great, and especially for someone who likes drums to sound the way that I like them to sound. I'm a bit embarrassed, but not enough to share it with you because I think you should try this. If you haven't tried this, definitely try this and use it because it is so awesome. All right, so obviously I have a small room here that I'm using. This is it. This is like one tiny, I'm not even using a real rug. I'm using a floor mat. So anyway, here's how I'm placing the mics. First off, I'm using these mics. These are the M160 ribbon mics from Beyerdynamic. And here is the other one. First thing you'll notice is there's only one up top, right? So that's the center of the kit, straight above me. And then the second one is actually over here above the floor tom. You can see why I thought this was like not worth my time to do. Putting an overhead over the floor tom, it still doesn't even really make sense to me. But ignore that. So as you may notice from back here, it's a little easier to see, there's essentially a right angle happening here. A 90-degree right angle between the overheads. So this is coming in pointed at the snare drum, and this is pointed down at the snare drum. This is a hypercardioid double ribbon mic from Beyerdynamic. So everything, you see the symbol above it, that just immediately screams bad idea. But since it's hypercardioid, it's actually rejecting all of the sound around the mic, and it's only picking up directly in front of the mic. I also watched a video of Glyn Johns explaining how he placed it on YouTube. There's a great old video of him explaining it to a bunch of audio students. And somebody asked him, do you measure it? And he's just like, no, it's basically a bunch of BS. He's like, just put it up until it sounds right. And I did that, and I can't believe it. You have to try this. I wound up moving things around. I'm gonna play for you what I recorded with this, and then I'm gonna add in one more trick, which is on this room mic down here. This is the R88. So this microphone is a stereo ribbon, and it's down on the floor, and the baffle is quite literally just blocking all transients from the drums. Keep in mind, this is a mix room that I built in the den of my house, and I'm using it to record drums to get big pumping drum sounds, which just would be hilarious if we could do. So we're gonna use the Glyn Johns overhead technique. I'm gonna use my R88 down here on the floor in front of this baffle and track some drums, and then we're gonna do one other trick in Pro Tools, and I'll show you that so that we can get some crazy sounds with it. Here we go. Okay, so I've got some drums recorded. Let's listen to the overheads first. Then we'll do a couple things with the overheads and the close mics, and then I'll show you the thing I'm gonna do with the rooms. We'll do this as fast as possible. So here's the overheads only soloed with no processing. So yeah, the the stereo image is so good. You can tell when I do the fill. Let me play that again. It sounds so great. Okay, so then you take kick and snare added in with the overheads. So we've got kick and snare. Okay, so this is two mics on the kick, 2 on the snare, and then the 2 on overheads. This is 6 microphones. I mean, it already sounds, it doesn't sound like a big room, but it sounds big. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of depth to the drums. It's got a nice wide image, and it sounds so great here. On the kick and snare, I'm just bussing them, and I have a little bit of an EQ going from, and I mean barely, on the 1084. Okay, so now let's add in the toms and see what the toms do. So good. Okay. Like, let's throw a compressor on here. What do we got? Let's do like a G-bus. Throw this on this puppy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the attack fast. We're going to do a fast release. Pull the makeup gain down and just crank it and see what happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to solo the overheads. Just the overheads. So you can tell when you exaggerate the threshold, you're really getting a lot more excitement in these mics. Now this would happen with, you know, overheads or rooms when you crank the fast attack fast ratio, but it helps having this placement because there is literally more space. I love that. Okay, we'll add in the close mics again. Let's do through the kick. And then I'm going to bring the makeup gain up back to where it was. Gosh, that sounds fantastic. That sounds so good. So by the way, on my drum bus, so all these tracks are going to a stereo aux. On this aux, I have a Pultec Pro with some low-end boost and attenuation on 30 Hertz, and then I have some boost and attenuation on 16. The high-end attenuation is set to 10. Just a little bit between sharp and broad, and then the compressor I'm using is the Neve 33609 SE, which I've never used the SE version of this, I don't think. But I literally, it's on the default setting. I pulled it on, it just sounded great. So this is what it sounds without it. Still sounds excellent. And then we'll turn it back on. It's just glue. It's just gluing everything together. It's great. Okay, so now we've got some excitement. You know, we're using 8 mics. So this is, by the way, I'm using the Apollo X. So I'm using mostly UAD stuff. I have a Pro Q3 that I'm using as a phase flip. Let's add in the room mics because the room is going to be really fun. Okay, so here's the room. This is the R88 that's down on the floor with the baffle in front of it. Here's the room. I'll do the mics we were hearing and I will creep the room up just a little bit. So you can really hear the room now, the space around the drum kit, right? I'm sorry for explaining that, but you can hear the room, right? It's not that exciting as it is, but it's more depth. This is stuff that makes a big difference in the mix to not sound so close and tight, right? But here's where it gets exciting. Let's do something. First off, let's throw like an EQ on there. I like the Pultec. My bias is to go to the Pultec Pro. So I'm going to do that. Here we go. And I'm going to exaggerate everything. I want it to be too much. That's what I want this room to do, is to be too much. And then I'm going to reel it in. So I've got the attenuation going. I don't want to get too much into this. I'm cranking the lows, I'm cranking the highs, and I'm attenuating, smoothing out the highs with the Pultec. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the SPL Transient Designer on the room mic. Now this is where you can just, it changes. It's the most drastic change you're going to hear. All of the stuff plays together, but let's go to SPL Transient Designer. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to do this with the room mic up, and I'm going to change it while it's playing. It sounds crazy now, right? Now the room is literally shaped differently. So this is without the rooms. And now you just have a new layer, a new color that can drastically, and maybe you don't use this all the time, maybe you pull it up for certain sections to have that effect or that feel. But it's nice to be able to do this when you only have a room that's small and just sounds like a small dead room. You know what I'm saying? So using the baffle in front of the room mic is a great way to control the transients from directly hitting those ribbon mics and causing it to be a little shrill and not so great. Now it's fluffy. Now there's a lot of just movement. It sounds like a larger room. It just does because it's literally changing the transients in that microphone and like just exaggerating everything. It's really, really fun. Okay, so now I'm going to add in the last two mics that I used, which are the hi-hat mic and this kit mic. So here's the hi-hat, right? I'll pull the room down a little bit. Now the next mic is the drum kit mic. This is the SM7 and I have it just over the top of the kick drum pointed at the snare drum. So this is, I'll solo this one. It sounds kind of funny on its own. By the way, I'm using the distressor and I have it set to a preset called Transient Removal, I believe, from Chris Cody, Transient Removal. So this is what it, without the Transient Designer, sounds like this. You're hearing a lot of those quick transients, and then with it on the setting, it's doing that same thing where it's fast attack, fast release. This is what I'm doing on the overheads. This is what I'm doing on the kit, and essentially the rooms is doing a similar thing. So all of these together really change the sound of the space. So again, let's compare the overheads, the mono kit, and the room mic before and after the processing. Still sounds great, by the way. Now it just sounds like you're in a different room and it's just got that crazy compressed pumping thing going, which is really fun when you add everything else in with it. All right, so the last two things I'm going to do is I'm going to add two parallel buses. One of them is going to be a parallel compression track, and the second one is going to be a reverb. Okay, so I'm using the Lexicon 480L here, and this is the Rooms Bank and the large wood room program standard. Okay, so I'm gonna just unmute this, and I'll bring it up as it's playing. Big room, right? Sounds awesome. Okay, now then when I have the reverb up a little bit louder than you would think to use. It's all of the decisions being made right now kind of are just because we're only listening to the drums. If everything else in the mix was up, then that would sort of tell you how much more or how much less you would want of something like reverb or parallel compression or something like that. But just for the sake of showing you how to get there fast, hopefully this is fast, this is what I'm gonna do. Okay, now the next thing is I'm gonna do a parallel bus track, and I have the 1176 on here. Let's see what this sounds like. Now I'm going to add in these scratch guitars that I have on here to kind of hear the balance between the room and the parallel compression and the reverb and see how everything's sitting. Definitely would throw some compression and a few things on some individual tracks here, but you get the idea that you can use mic placement and processing to your benefit to really shape the room you're in. So you don't have to feel trapped in, the space that you have. You can get creative with it and try different things. And for me, this was a game changer, going with the Glyn Johns mic placement. And in addition to using that mic in the room down there, it's so fun. I love that quality. It's got that 90s just dirty Weezer kind of just destroyed sonic quality to it, which is so fun for, obviously this particular kind of project. But all right, hopefully this was beneficial to you. I wanted to just try to make a consolidated video where I can show you something like this. I want to do a lot more of these with different instruments. I will call it 2-minute tones, and I'll feature some different friends of mine, talented musicians around town and other places. Let me know if you guys have done this before down in the comments with the Glyn Johns thing, or how you like to accomplish this thing, the excessive overcompressed trick, with drums. Let me know what you guys do, what you like to use. Hit the like button if you guys like this video. If you guys want to see more of these videos, let me know down below. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. Maybe you're new here. I've got a really crazy month coming up, so thank you guys so much for checking this video out. Share it with a friend if you know someone who wants to see this kind of stuff. If you want to support the channel, go to ANDREWMASTERSmusic.com. There's a million ways to support the channel on there. Just go check it out. You can do Zoom calls, there's a donate page, PO box, all that stuff is really cool. I'm also going to be probably putting together some sort of course. Let's call it a course. So if you're interested in seeing something like that involving like producing a record at home, let me know, because I have a lot of stuff on this and it's really hard to put it into these short YouTube videos. So let me know down in the comments if you guys want to see that. Go check out the website. Go check out the other videos on the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, I post there random stuff all the time, do Q&As, so follow me on there. And that's it. That's all I got. 2-minute tones. I don't know what you think. Good idea? Bad idea? All right.